Have you ever sat down to play a sequel to a strategy game, one you've waited years for, only to find that your old tactics, the ones you perfected, they just don't work?
Oh, absolutely. It's that feeling where your own expertise becomes your worst enemy.
Exactly. That moment of just brutal understanding that your mastery isn't just irrelevant, it's actually hurting you.
You walk in with, 2 decades of city building confidence, you fire up the endless mode, and then you realize you're playing the old game with a new coat of paint, and the game is not happy about it.
That is the perfect way to frame today's deep dive. We are jumping straight into the new Anno 117. It just dropped on November 13, 2025, and the conversation around it is
It
fascinating.
really is. Veterans of Anno 1800 to 1404, they're all hitting the same wall. They're realizing this game is, well, it's mechanically a different beast entirely.
Our source material today is a really deep, and I have to say, sometimes frustrated Reddit thread where players are sort of workshopping this in real time.
Yeah, they're grappling with what one of them called legacy strategy syndrome, just relying on old habits that are now, you know, completely counterproductive in this Roman setting.
So, our mission today is to give you the shortcut. We're going to distill exactly how this mature, barrel aged Anno, as they called it, forces you to unlearn 20 years of muscle memory.
Right. We want you to bypass those first 20 punishing hours of trial and error.
We're looking at the core mechanical shift so you can jump straight to mastering it.
And that's the key, because the problem isn't that the game is just harder. It's that players are instinctively applying rules that have been totally inverted. If you get that now, you get the game.
Okay, let's unpack that, starting with the city itself. The biggest initial stumble for veterans was applying that old, strict city design, segregation.
Absolutely. The sacred rule, right. Separate your high-tier population, in this case the equinates, from your common workers, the plebs.
Because, I mean, that was always the most efficient way to build. The high-level homes didn't need the low-tier services, so you streamlined everything.
Exactly. And the first sign that this was all wrong came from a fantastic anecdote in the thread.
Oh yeah, tell us about that one.
So a player did exactly what we just described, built a fancy separate district for their equities, moved the beautiful theater over with them, and the result wasn't just like a minor issue.
It was a
It
disaster.
was a catastrophe, a sudden, massive 500-point drop in happiness, island-wide.
Wow. So the game is basically shouting at you to build integrated cities.
Yeah.
What's the mechanic behind that? Why does it punish segregation so hard?
It's all about the role of public buildings. Before, a theater or a church was there to fulfill a specific need for a specific class.
Right, it was a checkbox you had to tick to level them up.
In 117, services like baths and theaters, they affect all tiers of residences in their radius, even the ones who don't explicitly demand them.
Ah, okay. So a low-tier pleb might not need a theater to upgrade.
But they get what the game calls an ambient stability or local prosperity modifier just from being near one.
So it's not about consumption anymore, it's about creating an area of effect benefit.
Precisely. And that benefit means more tax money, more stability,
Right.
basically profit that you are just leaving on the table
Yeah.
if you build those old segregated cities.
That completely upends the whole city block philosophy. Which brings us to what seems like the next big headache for veterans. The workforce puzzle.
This is where the real depth of the change hits you.
Yeah.
Vets assumed, population is population, more people, more workers.
But that's not how it works now.
Not at all. There's now a crucial split between your total population number and your actual available workforce.
How does that work? How is it different from 1800?
Well, in the past, the relationship was pretty direct. Now, every tier of citizen provides a different percentage of their population as workforce.
Oh, interesting.
And those percentages drop off a cliff the higher you go. So your Tier 1 Liberty might give you, say, 50% of their number as workers,
Okay.
but your high-tier fancy equities, they might only give you 15%. The professionals, they're landowners, they're not hauling bricks.
So if I have 1,000 equites and 1,000 libertis, I get way more actual labor from the common folk.
Exactly. Which means any item or bonus
Mhm.
that just boosts raw population for your lower tiers is suddenly way more valuable than veterans thought. You need them to staff everything.
You're not just chasing the highest tier anymore, you're managing stratified resource pools.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And what about the smaller services like watchtowers and things? You mentioned public buildings, stack benefits. Is it the same for them?
It is. In old games, putting 2 watchtowers next to each other was kind of pointless for the same house.
Right. It was redundant.
Here, a residence can profit from multiple buildings of the same type. You can get happiness from a watchtower and from
Yeah.
the, dedicated police building. It encourages you to pack services in to boost that overall stability.
This is a huge shift. So let's zoom out from the city to the macro strategy, island management.
Yeah?
The old way was always one giant capital, maybe a few small, grimy production islands feeding it. But the community is saying Anno 117 completely flips that on its head.
It really does. The game is aggressively pushing you to have a big, thriving city on every single island. That old hub-and-spoke model is it's too fragile now.
Wait, hold on. A city on every island? Isn't that horribly inefficient? We spent 20 years learning to minimize low-tier pops and specialize our island.
It feels inefficient, but it's based on the new game's priorities.
Yeah.
And the number one priority is the relentless, absolutely staggering demand for Tier 1 citizens.
The Liberty and the Plebes. Why do we suddenly need so many of them?
Because they staff everything that matters for expansion. Your military units, the entire crew for your ships, which you need for trade and war, and most importantly, all of your warehouses.
Ah, so if you just rush to the top tier on your main island like we used to.
You hit a workforce brick wall. You literally run out of people to load goods onto ships or to build an army because you've promoted them all.
So that's why I saw that strategy discussion about dedicating an entire island just to farming tier 1 pops, to basically be a manpower pool for your military and your shipping fleet.
It's a strategy born of pure necessity. It's the only way to generate that massive workforce without accidentally leveling them up and losing their labor. It's a painful lesson for a lot of players.
And what about production? Are we still keeping our farms and mines totally separate?
Not entirely. And this is another interesting little wrinkle. Production buildings now have these range effects, both positive and negative.
So you might actually want some production in the city.
Sometimes, yeah. A lavender field, for example, might give a small happiness boost to the houses nearby, so it makes sense to integrate it.
Okay, that's cool. But there has to be a catch, right?
A massive catch. And this is the really tactical part. Only the negative effects stack.
Oh, that's clever.
So if you put 2 polluting iron smelters next to a house, that house gets a double penalty. But the positive boost from a lavender field, that doesn't stack. You only get it once.
So you have to be incredibly careful about what you mix into your city, balancing the one-time positive boost against these harsh stacking negatives.
Exactly. It's a whole new layer of city planning.
Let's talk about what happens when that planning fails, the consequences. Seasoned players are saying the hidden legend difficulty is just brutal.
It is.
And the thing they keep highlighting is the severity of the downward spiral. How when things go wrong, they go wrong fast.
This is maybe the biggest, most unforgiving change from older games. In Anno 1800, if you ran out of, beer, your people would get grumpy.
Yeah, they complain, maybe stop upgrading, but you had time. You could adjust a production slider, import some goods.
You could mitigate it slowly. That is not an option in Windows 17. Here, when a basic demand like porridge or fish goes unfulfilled, the happiness hit is immediate and it is massive.
Okay.
That happiness crash causes an instant sharp drop in your available workforce. And here's the killer. The game prioritizes. Your remaining workers are only enough to staff your essential public services and your warehouses.
Meaning?
What about your production buildings? Meaning your sawmills, your weavers, your farms, the very buildings you need to produce the goods to fix the problem. They all suddenly read 0 out of X workers.
Oh, wow. So it's an instant feedback loop.
It's instantaneous and it is self-reinforcing. You can't make fish because your fishermen aren't working, because your people are unhappy, because they don't have fish. It's a cliff you just fall right off of.
That is genuinely terrifying from a systems perspective. So what are the escape hatches? What has the community figured out to break that spiral?
The first step is what they're calling aggressive workforce control. You have to immediately pause every single building that doesn't directly add to your population.
Like what?
Rope factories, weaponsmiths, any luxury goods, all of it. You cut every non-essential job to force those workers back into food production and public services.
That's a huge sacrifice. Pausing your iron production just to get the flour mill running again?
It's painful. The second thing, and this one really hurts the old school players, is you have to garrison or even get rid of your military units.
You sacrifice your army.
Those soldiers and sailors require Tier 1 workers. In a crisis, a guy staffing the flour mill is more valuable than a guy on a watchtower. You're sacrificing defense for logistics.
Another total reversal of how you'd normally think.
Completely. And another weirdly counterintuitive trick is to sometimes only focus on fulfilling half of a resident's needs.
What do you mean?
If a house needs, say, fish and linen gives you population, you just focus all your effort on linen. Forget the fish for now. It's triage. Get the population back up first, then worry about full happiness.
And what's the ultimate emergency button, the lifeline?
Emergency supplies. You have to have ship parks offshore, a big one, like a quadrium, loaded with essential
It's a
goods.
tactical relief ship.
Yes. You use that quick injection of goods to kickstart the happiness, which brings the workforce back online, which restarts production.
Yeah.
It's the only way to defibrillate a collapsed economy.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's shift to what all this means for the look and feel of the city. If the old 10 by 10 grid from 1800 is dead, what works now?
Well, the game is definitely pushing you away from rigid grids and more toward a proper, sort of organic-looking city builder. You're forced to make compromises.
Because sacrificing that perfect grid space now has a real mechanical purpose, right? It's not just for aesthetics.
Exactly. You need that space for the big public buildings, for the integrated production fields, so players are experimenting.
What are the new blueprints looking like?
One of the most successful ones people are sharing is a 10 by 13 layout.
So a bit bigger, a rectangle instead of a square. What does that extra space get you?
It allows you to fit most of the standard service buildings in quite nicely. But even the 10 by 13 forces you to make choices.
It's still not big enough for everything.
The really big structures, the oil press, the medicus or hospital, the theater, the big public bath, the central forum, they still won't fit. So you end up with this central core of monumental buildings with these residential blocks sprawling around them.
So even the best layout isn't a perfect, repeatable pattern. It forces you to accept some inefficiency for the sake of function.
Precisely. Someone mentioned a 12 by 17 layout, but others said it felt way too sprawling. The goal is finding that balance between density and the space needed for integration.
And it seems like the community is already taking these new mechanics and running with them, speculating about future DLC.
Oh, absolutely. And their ideas show they really get the new design philosophy. Two main ones keep coming up. First is an insulate mechanic.
Like the Roman apartment blocks, a
Yeah.
skyscraper equivalent.
Exactly. The idea is you could upgrade your tier 1 and 2 houses into these massive high-density tenements. You'd get a huge population boost.
But with huge penalties, I'm guessing.
Of course. Massive health and fire safety risks, which would then require totally new service buildings to manage, like a citywide sewage system, maybe an underground aqueduct to provide health buffs. It makes the city vertically complex.
And for the rich folks, the equitus.
The idea for them is a villa mechanic. Instead of just more houses, you could merge several high-tier homes into one huge estate.
But not for more population.
Right. The goal wouldn't be more people, but better output. More money, more science, more knowledge. It fits perfectly with this new idea of focusing on qualitative growth, not just raw numbers.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've seen Anno 117 take this formula we all know and just elevate it by making everything interdependent.
It really is. Public buildings benefiting everyone, production adding to happiness, a workforce economy so tight it punishes you for thinking the old way. It's like one player said, it's a smooth, perfect cocktail once you stop trying to drink it like cheap wine.
And for you, the listener, the final takeaway here is that sometimes the hardest part of learning a new system isn't the system itself. It's having to unlearn your own successful habits. The veterans who struggled were the ones who couldn't let go of their 1800 mindset.
That's the conflict, isn't it? The player versus their own past success. Which, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really raises a question for all of us. Where else in our lives are we trying to play a Civ 7 situation with a Civ 4 mindset? Relying on an old, comfortable legacy solution when the world, or this system, has fundamentally changed underneath us. Something to think about next time your old, efficient method just isn't working anymore.